Hey y'all, I'm Stacy. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm here to talk with you about scales, and specifically scales for bass guitar. First of all, what exactly are scales? Well, basically, scales are the notes that fall within a certain key, with the notes that are going to sound right with a specific key. Today, we're going to talk about major and minor scales. And just to start out, I'll play each for you just so you kind of see how they sound, starting with a major scale. So that one sounds bright. Next will be a minor scale. As you can tell, there's a little bit of character difference between them. The minor sounds a little bit either sad or maybe a little creepy. So that just gives you a basic idea of how different keys will have different sounding sort of flavors to them. But we're going to talk about scale charts, which specifically show you where those notes fall on your bass. And starting out with a major scale, I have this handy dandy little thing I drew up. How to read this. Each one of these lines is representing each string on your bass. So it's kind of like if you held it up this way, starting on this side. Over here you've got your lowest string, and then going over to your highest string. And then these are representing each fret. And notice they don't have a number listed on here because the scale chart and most scale charts are not actually for a specific key or note, but rather you move them up and down the fret of the bass. You know, if you wanted to play it in C, you'd start at C. How these will be played is you'll go from top to bottom down your lowest string, and then you're going to move back up to the top on the next string and then play each one. So just to demo how that's played here, these little purple square ones are going to be your root note. If you're playing in the key of C, C will be the root note. So you'll find C on your bass and play it that way. I'll just play this in A right now, and it's really not important that you memorize like what are the notes on the fret. That's something you could definitely just look up online. But I happen to know that the 5th fret here is an A, and that's where we're gonna start on our root. So just like on here, I will start, play that note, and then I'm gonna go skip a fret down and go to this next one. So that'll be down here. And now we're gonna move to the next highest string, and that's gonna come up here. And then it's just one more fret down for the next note. And then you skip a fret down to that other green one on the bottom here. And now we're going to that last string here, back up to the top. Oops. And then skipping a fret going down. And then finally ending back on our root. All right. Notice that this one started on the lowest string, but this scale chart actually works for starting on either your 4th string or your 3rd string. So say we wanted to play this in C, well, C is this 3rd fret on your 3rd string, but it'll be the same thing. So you'll just go back on the root. All right, next we'll move on to the minor scale. It's pretty similar. Obviously it's going to be a little bit different, but same thing. You've got your root here and then ending again on the root. Those are those purple square ones. So for this one, again, since you're starting on your lowest string, you'll start at the root, you'll skip a fret on that same string and play the next note 2 frets down, and then the next note will be that next fret straight down from that, and then you'll skip to your next highest string playing on that same fret as your root was, and then you'll move down, skip a fret, play the next one, move down 1 fret, play the next one, then move on up to the next string, and you'll play this one, skip a fret and move down and be back at your root. And we'll go ahead and start with A again. So I'm going to start here on the 5th fret. That's my root. And then you skip a fret and go down to play the next one. And then the next one in that line is just the very next fret. The next line is basically the same thing, just on the next string. So I'm going to skip a string, come back up to the 5th fret, and then go down, and then 1 fret down, and then you're going to go back up on your 2nd string, and then end on the root, skipping a fret down. Right. But since you have the chart, which you can either copy from this video and use for yourself, these are also available online, so you could look directly off the internet and play along with it, or you can print it. I usually just handwrite things. Now that you have these scale charts, how do you actually use them, or what do you use them for? Well, there's a few things that they could be really helpful for. The first one is just simply a practice exercise. I mean, since you're moving from string to string and up and down the frets as you're playing these, it's really good practice both for fretting, getting those strings pushed down hard enough, and just moving from string to string. I would recommend just playing through these scales. You could do either major, minor, both. You could pick a different scale if you want, but just playing through them, a good way to start is playing each note multiple times. So you could start on this major one and hit each note 4 times. And so on and so forth up through the whole scale. You could do it the other way, starting from your higher root and going up the frets down to your lowest string rather than the way I just showed you, or you could go up and then back down. But hitting each note a few times helps to make sure you're really pressing that fret down hard and that you got your right spot for your next one before it's time to move on. And then once you've mastered that, you could just run them straight through with just 1 hit for each note. So really good practice to stretch your fingers out, and it also just helps you to get the scale memorized if you want to, practicing that out. Although, like I said, absolutely not necessary that you memorize these things. I am still usually looking up scales and fretboard charts to figure out where the heck the different notes are, and that's just fine. But next, the thing that I think scales are most fun and helpful for is actually for writing songs and writing parts for songs. How do you do that? Well, these scales are basically giving you a palette of notes to work with based on your key. If you know your song is in C minor, or a part of your song is in C minor, well, you could pull out your minor scale, find where C is on your bass, and have that be your root. So again, you could look on the internet to see where is that, or you could, if you have it memorized and know like, oh, this is C, that's easy. But this is then will give you all these other notes that might sound good with that. So when you're playing a song, it's not that you have to go through in that order every time, but these are the notes that you can pick and choose from that will work good for that song. And maybe you use a lot of them, maybe you'll just use one, maybe you'll just use the root note, and that's absolutely fine. It's just giving you kind of a little bit of a palette to work with. But like I said, the first thing you have to do in order to do that is figure out, well, what key do you need? Is it major, is it minor, and what's the note? So you might already know that if you're writing a song with someone, or if you wrote the song yourself, you could just pick a key and this is the key I'm playing, and so that will be really easy. But if you're trying to play along with the song or write a part for a song someone else wrote, or just a song you like, there's a couple ways you could figure that out. If you're writing with someone, you can ask them, or if there's a guitar part for this song, usually the key is just whatever the guitar chords are. So you can actually look up online for most popular songs. If you just look up, type your song, type guitar chords in a search, it will usually tell you, and it'll just put, A or C or G. Oftentimes it'll have it listed right with the lyrics of the song, so you could see exactly when it switches, like, oh, they're in G for this part of the chorus, and then they switch to D. All the time that's the key for the song, you know which different scales to use. And again, the main thing, as with everything, these scales are more of a guide than a rule. So they're going to give you a good idea something that might sound good, but it doesn't mean that you have to play it like that, or there might not be other notes that fit in with the scale or that sound good. So I would say the main thing is be creative, trust your ear, and if you like how something sounds, well, that's the most important thing. We talked about the major and minor scales today. Just know that this is just a start. There are so many scales out there. I would suggest just look it online, trying to place them out, see how they sound to you, because really it's how they sound, you know, whether or not they're the sound that you're looking for a particular thing you're trying to play is what matters. A few that I like besides the major and minor scales are the blues scale, which is really useful for, well, blues of course, but also like R&B, something kind of funkier, jazzier, country, as well as a pentatonic scale. The pentatonic scale is in both major and minor versions as well, and it's really similar to these two scales. It's just a little bit more stripped down. Some of the extra notes are taken out of pentatonic scales, which makes them particularly useful because they sound good with a lot of things. I'd recommend looking at those, but also just playing out some of the other ones that you find and seeing how you like their sound. And where to find them, as I mentioned, just looking online, usually typing like bass scales chart, or if you know us, like you're specifically looking for a D minor scale or whatever, you know, just type in a Google search. Usually I'll do an image search, that way you get the nice looking scale charts like this is what I prefer. Whatever makes the most sense to you is just fine. You could just look these up online and just have them right next to you playing from that, or you could print them out. I usually handwrite stuff, but whatever works for you is fine. And the most important thing is have fun. Good luck, y'all.